understand who your customer is, understand what it is they want, what it is they're trying to accomplish, and not just in terms of solution to the problem that your product solves, but in their life.
Hey everybody, you're listening to the Traffic Handler Podcast. I'm your host, Amy Biddle. We're about getting new customers, making new sales, and growing your retail business with e-commerce. My guest today is Gwen Hutchings. She's a brand strategist, e-commerce marketer, and copywriter. She's made her clients over $25 million with her deep understanding of people and their motivations. Brands she's worked with have seen results like 6x email revenue growth, 5x social media growth, 4.5x return on ad spend, and 2x lifetime value. And that's just in the first year. Gwen, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Amy.
I'm so excited to have you here. You and I have great conversations about content for e-com, and this is not our first conversation. So tell me, first of all, we'll start at the high peaks. How on earth did you do all of this?
I always work on a team. I can't take full credit for, everything. I lead teams, and teams that have their knowledge and expertise come together do a great deal to help those things. But ultimately, what it comes down to is knowing how to talk to your customer.
Yes.
And if people don't speak to their customer the right way, they are not going to sell them anything, no matter how good their SEO is, no matter how much money they spend.
Yeah, absolutely. You and I were talking about this the other day when we were getting ready to have this conversation. Messaging is key. And if you don't have the messaging right, you're not going to resonate with your customers. You're not going to, probably even reach them. They may see your stuff, but you're not going to reach them. So, with that in mind, and we'll dig into this as we go through this conversation, but how do you determine how to say what you need to say to your audience, your customers, your prospects?
That's a really good question. I think it ultimately comes down to two things. One, stop talking about yourself. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that retailers tend to make. They think their story is unique and different, and it may be. And they think that their product needs to be, all the features need to be talked about and things. Stop it. People generally aren't there for that. They want to know what you can do for them, right? And the second part is understand who your customer is, understand what it is they want, what it is they're trying to accomplish, and not just in terms of solution to the problem that your product solves, but in their life. Mm-hmm. What do they want? Really tap into them as a human, and talk to them like they're a person.
Right. So I know that your clients have stuck with you for quite some time in some cases. So you have time to kind of try new messaging and test things out. Is that a rigorous, difficult, painful, like I'm not getting any sleep process, or what? How do you do this?
Fortunately, I get plenty of sleep most of the time.
Yeah.
Part of it comes naturally to me because I grew up doing theater, right? So I spent a lot of time learning to get into people's heads and understand. In theater, the thing is, what's your motivation, Yeah. But customers are no different. When someone comes to your store, they're looking to accomplish something. So when you can understand their motivation, then it's not a really difficult process to start understanding what they want and how to communicate to them how you can help them with that. You don't have to be up all night. And we test different messaging for sure. But what we generally start with is understanding who already is buying from us and who we want to be buying from us that we're not reaching. Okay. And kind of getting into the differences between those groups.
Yeah.
And maybe what we need to be saying a little bit differently, or how we need to be positioning a little bit differently to potentially reach that next group. It's not arduous. It just takes a little bit of tapping into your own human empathy.
Oh, yeah.
And getting to know what people are ultimately trying to do in their life.
Right. So that requires really advanced kind of listening, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And I would suggest it's less listening to um, experts and more starting to listen to your customer. And if you don't have access to the customer themselves, which can be hard sometimes if they're on an email list, you're not seeing them face to face. One of my favorite things to do is to start looking up media created by that customer. Oh. So if I know that I'm trying to speak to a 40-year-old woman, I'm going to start looking on the internet at social media posts from 40-year-old women. I'm going to go on TikTok and watch what the 40-year-old women are talking about. I'm going to read articles by and also articles about that demographic that tap into the problems they're struggling with as a demographic. I'm going to read books. I'm going to watch movies. Any kind of media that can get you tapped into them and kind of listening to them by proxy.
Right.
That will get you there.
Right, exactly. And I know most of us as marketers are generally not selling to people who are us.
We're trying to know that. Though.
Yeah. And we're trying to tap into the minds of people who are different, like different ethnic, age, everything. It could be an entirely different demographic. And yet we need to get in there into that conversation that they're having in their heads, which is just marketing 101, get into the conversation that people are already having. And I'm trying to remember who to attribute that quote to, but
Yeah. Well, and it is marketing 101, and yet so many of us are so bad at it, As a woman, I can't tell you how many times I have gone to the store or seen a product marketed and been like, that was definitely written by a man.
Yeah.
A man who has no women in his life and does not understand and did not ask.
Yeah.
And that's not to put down men by any means. It's just that there are some men who do a lot of advertising and marketing.
Yeah.
Who haven't learned what it actually is women want,
Right.
Maybe after having a baby, our first concern isn't losing weight. Maybe it's more getting sleep.
Yeah.
Bonding with our baby, those kinds of things, those disconnects.
Yep.
So it's basic marketing, but it's not getting done.
Right. Exactly. Yes. So, all right, let's do a kind of a role plays are stupid. So here's a case study. Client is getting low click-through rates on ads, which is an immediate signal that says you're not talking to your people. Your ads just at a very elemental level, click-through is low because your ads are not talking to your people. So what's the first thing you do? What's the first test you might look at? Having gotten that feedback, all right, these ads are not working. Now what do we do?
The first thing I would do is try to find somebody who's in their customer group and show them the ad and say, tell me what you think.
Brilliant. Yeah.
I don't ask other marketers. I ask the customer.
Yes, exactly. I love that. I love it. And, no wonder you're getting the kinds of results that you get, because when your target audience tells you exactly what they want, then you can do more of that. Today's episode is sponsored by Schema app for Shopify. Connect with customers at the beginning of their buying journey. Adding structured data to your Shopify store helps search engines better understand your website. This increases the chance of customers finding and purchasing products and services like yours. Get started today at schemaapp.com, schemaapp.com.
Yeah. And I will also go into the ad. The second thing I like to do is say, are we being negative and focusing on their pain? Or are we flipping it to the positive and focusing on what outcome they're trying to get?
Yes.
People don't want to be reminded of the ways that they're hurting or the ways that they're frustrated.
Yeah.
They already know.
Yeah.
So we can tell them what's going to happen better. Sorry, that didn't make any sense. When we can tell them the better outcome they're going to get,
Yes.
then they're more likely to engage with us.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. That is perfect. So, how about a moment to brag? Like, give me a story about a client that you worked with. You don't have to name them,
Okay.
just sort of, here's a client that I worked with and this is what I did for them. Can you give me a for instance?
Sure. So I had a company that I worked for in-house for a while. And when I went in, they had a massive email list, but they believed email was utterly dead because they were making tens of thousands of dollars a year from their email. So within the first year, we went in, we tweaked the messaging, we changed the way that they were visually representing their customer, we changed the way that they were speaking to them, we changed the way they talked about their product, and we changed the strategy with the email as well. And we took them to over $1 million in that email channel.
Just in email. I love that. I love that.
It was really fun to see because they had that big list.
Yes.
Where we weren't fighting for the ability to get the words in front of people. It was purely a test of the messaging.
Right. And it was since it was the messaging that you were focusing on. It was the messaging that got you from tens of thousands to 1 million just in email. That's new. That's not new customers. That's existing customers and maybe some prospects in there too, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the email list grew, but part of that is because when you start speaking to your customers the right way and they start buying from you, then they start telling people about you.
Love it.
So it was a combination of the two.
I love that. I love it. Great. So, that's the thing that gets the 6 times email revenue growth and the 4.5 times return on ad spend and doubling the lifetime value of customers.
Yes.
That's where that comes from. And, so I don't know what the number is now. I researched this recently. It's somewhere between the cost of a new customer is somewhere between 5 times and 25 times. And there's no agreement on this. The cost of, an existing marketing to an existing customer. So, I agree with you, how that can go.
Absolutely. And ultimately, this whole conversation boils down to emotions, right?
Yes.
If you're selling them product features, it doesn't matter how great they are. You're just not going to tap into that desire. Emotions is what you need. And when people can identify with your product as something that is part of who they are or something that helps them be who they are, and they form that emotional connection, you go from being a churn and burn company to creating something sustainable.
Yeah. And by emotions, you're not talking about what you were talking about a minute ago, which was, focusing on pain points. I think the older marketing lessons were, step on the pain points and really, put your heel in that nerve and, and it's not like that. It really isn't. So that emotion is going to be, here's what it's going to be like. And tell me, if you agree with this, excuse me. Here's what it's going to be like when you come on board with us.
Absolutely. There's been a shift over the past 5 years or so towards aspirational marketing.
Yeah.
And I think that's ultimately what that is showing people who they can become or what they can achieve with your product instead of telling them all the things that they already tell themselves all day are wrong with them. Good.
Boy, talk about making the world a better place. I mean, that's good. That's like, fixing marketing. I've been in sales and marketing for decades, and just the whole step on that last raw nerve that always bothered me. So I'm
Yeah.
glad for that.
Well, and that really just came from my own feelings about it,
Mm-hmm.
as someone who's had my own struggles. I hate it when a company
Oh yeah.
makes me think about that more. That's not what I want. I didn't come to you. I don't want to give you my money if you are making me feel bad about myself,
Right.
or reminding me of the ways that I already feel bad about myself.
Yeah.
I don't need to be reminded.
No.
Don't worry, I'm fully aware.
Right, exactly. The stuff that keeps us up at night is not the stuff that we want to think about during the day. So
Yeah.
let's talk about customer journey. And,
Okay, great.
yeah. So just making a short leap to a slightly different angle on the same topic, how do you feel that you need to differentiate how you talk to people based on their level of awareness, based on, like that whole Eugene Schwartz levels of awareness pyramid, that we hear about all the time. And yet we sit down to write an ad and it's just like, oh, well, I'm talking to the, warm market the same way I'm talking to the cold market. So how do you approach the customer journey, the levels of awareness of a prospect or a returning customer?
Yeah, that's a great question and kind of a really big topic. But
It's huge.
ultimately, yeah, you have to speak to them differently. Otherwise, you're going to lose them.
Mhm.
A lot of us like to, or have this instinct, I guess, to give people as much information as possible up front and tell them all the amazing things that they're going to feel and be and do and accomplish. And it's overwhelming. It's like drinking from a fire hose, as they say, And so we start with just making them aware that we exist, period.
Mhm.
And the biggest picture of how we can help them. So instead of saying this product will do this and this product will do this, we say, look at this life
Yeah.
that you could be living or that you already see yourself in. And you fit within, this. We are just speaking to them overall about their lifestyle and about who they are.
Okay.
And then we slowly bring them down and drip them down into, well, this could help you with X issue.
Yeah.
Maybe you're having problems with sleep. Let me go ahead and show you some sleep products we have that are going to give you the most restful sleep you've ever had. Oh, did you know about our founder? The reason they created this is they had the same issue with sleep and they feel amazing. It's just bringing them down those stages of awareness slowly.
Right.
Because, yeah, ultimately you want to get them to buy the product.
Mm-hmm.
But first you have to get them to care that you exist.
Right. And people will care when it affects them in the way they need it to affect them.
Absolutely.
Not because we're beating them over the head with, this message that we want them to hear.
Yeah, for sure. And ultimately that's kind of what lifestyle marketing is about. And that's the approach I tend to take.
Right.
Is instead of saying buy our product, we're saying, come live your life like us.
Mm-hmm.
Come join us. Come, we're having a party.
Yeah.
Don't you want to come?
Yeah. And I think for most people, that aspirational message, that's going to be, first of all, it's still unique enough that people want that. Oh, look at this ad. Here's this, person on the beach. Well, I live in Detroit, so I'm not going to be on a beach, but I want to feel like that.
Right.
That kind of thing. I'm not actually in Detroit, but because I live on the beach, but you know what I mean. So
you have the dream already.
I'm already living the dream, right? We're trying to get other people to live the dream, no matter where they are. And I'm not slamming Detroit. I actually think it's a really cool place, and I have a cousin who lives up there. So,
but if you're in winter, you're dreaming of the beach.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, this is really cool. So let's talk about now. Social media is one of the things that you have done. It's just one of the different types of channels: email, social media, ads, ad copy, e-commerce copy. So let's tackle social media growth for a minute, because that was a 5x leap for you for clients. How do you do that? How do you take somebody from, your social media is really mediocre and now we're gonna, tune that up? How do you do that?
Ultimately, I mean, it comes down to the same thing, but the great thing about social is it's interactive.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're giving people things that they can respond to,
Yeah.
you're, posing questions or showing them something that makes them say, oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
People are compelled to respond because this is the way we've learned to communicate over the past 10 years or so. I also really think there's a lot to be said for giving away free information on social media. So when I worked for an outdoor company, we had a lot of focus on over the fire cooking, and we would give out recipes on social media. We'd show picture of beautiful food cooking over the fire and say, here's the recipe for this right there in the caption. Mm-hmm. Or, here's how you make this beautiful cocktail. Or we'd have someone, in the stories just asking people what they want and then giving it to them.
Right. Right. And that doesn't have to be a difficult prospect. That doesn't have to be, give me the recipe for, open fire cashew chili. That's got to be easy as can be.
Yeah, exactly. And the beautiful thing is then if you have that photo of the open fire cashew chili, right?
Yep.
And you've got the recipe, well, not everybody's going to see it on social media. Right. So you can then put it in an email. Oh. And then at the bottom, you can put a few pictures of the different pieces of product that were used to cook it. So if you're selling cast iron, then you can show them the cast iron cookware that was used. Yes. And then you can put it on your blog as a recipe, and you can send that out later in the month. Right. As here are some things you might have missed from us this month. Yes. So you take this one piece of content you're making that has a message and value. You're giving the customer something instead of just constantly asking them for their money.
Right.
And you can use it in all these different ways and get a real bang for your buck. Mm-hmm. And make sure that as many people as possible are hearing that message.
Right. Right, exactly. Because people tend not to leap across channels. They do. Like, we're all using email, and a certain percentage of us are using Facebook or Insta or TikTok, but we may not jump channels.
And even if you engage with a brand or, a store on multiple channels, with algorithms and filters in your email and just the sheer deluge of information and content coming at you, you still might not see it unless it comes to you in multiple ways.
Right. Right. Awesome. Multiple ways brings up the topic of frequency. And I know that for people whose Facebook ads I run, we'll do to a warm market, we'll do a frequency of up to 40, which seems like a lot. But, people are not seeing the ad that many times. So Facebook may report a 40, but I would hazard to guess that people are seeing an ad maybe 5 times in that 40.
Yeah. And what if they're actually seeing it and taking it in is even less, because we are so trained to just scroll past anything that resembles an ad.
Right. Right. Exactly. Oh, now that's an interesting thing. So, anything that resembles an ad, do you find that making content for any channel, any platform, that doesn't look like an ad gets in better? Or how can you talk about that?
That's a great question. And it partially depends on vertical, right? And what kind of industry and customer you're serving.
Okay.
And there are times that ads are great because people go, oh, this is something maybe I don't know about. But if you're hitting your warm market, it's better to keep it looking less like an ad, unless you're having a sale or something where you just want to let them know, hey, you can save some money right now. Come on over.
Yeah.
I'm not a big believer in super long captions that are, mocked up to look like a story, but really people don't read it that way. It feels disingenuous.
Yes.
So when I say that it doesn't look like an ad, maybe your ad is more recipe, even though you're selling cookware, or maybe it's an ad about a makeup tutorial if you're selling a beauty product. It doesn't have to be disguised as content.
Okay.
You can just make content that is an ad.
Yes. And I think that's going to be the way that you're really going to get that genuine empathy going.
Yeah. And there's definitely a place for traditional ads too. I'm very much an advertising minded person in the way I think about campaigns and things.
Right.
There's a value, but you need to mix it up and see what resonates with your audience and which ones perform best.
Yeah. This is brilliant. So, Gwen, we're going to have a bunch of stuff in the show notes. We're going to have the link to your website. What do you want to talk about? How people can work with you, and talk about your website and talk about how to get started. I mean, what do people do?
Great. The easiest way to get in touch with me is to go to my website. If you message me on LinkedIn, I might not see it for 2 months because I'm just not on there a lot. I tend to work on retainers. I work as a consultant mostly. I like to come in, work with your team to figure out, or just if you're a small business, just and figure out what it is you need, where you're going wrong, or where you can improve. Maybe you're doing things right. You just need to take it a little bit further in some direction, right? And then I like to set you up to succeed and step out. I'm not a big one for being the executor all the time. I only do that in very limited capacities. So I can help you find the people that you need to execute. Mostly, I just want to help you figure out how to speak to your customer and get the groundwork for that laid.
That's great. And, for most small business owners, the avatar is, first and foremost, they like control. So that offer from you is, and I love that you're nodding, for those who are just on audio for this, Gwen is nodding ferociously. We've both worked with, excuse me, the avatar of the ecom, business owner, and control is first and foremost the thing. So for you to come in as a consultant is brilliant, because then we could just say, hey, you do these things and you're going to see improvements because you've got the track record, you've got the chops, you've got the experience to know, when store owners, when business owners do these things, they get results that have looked like this for other people. And so they will look like this for you. So absolutely brilliant. Good.
Well, and we know that they like control because we work for ourselves too, right?
Absolutely. Oh, control freak. Absolutely. Raise his hand. Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Same. Yep. I won't go back to the corporate world anytime soon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you get to, this way you get to do your own thing and help other people. And that old Zig Ziglar thing is, if you help enough people get what they want, you get what you want. And that's a great way to live. So
yeah, and that applies to your customers too.
Absolutely. Yes, it's the same thing we've been talking about for the last however long it's been, almost a half an hour. So, the whole idea is help your customers get what they want. And kind of to recap, what that means is they want to feel good about themselves, about their lives. And as your brand can be part of that uplift, that aspirational message to them, then they'll bring you along and let you be a part of that lifestyle.
Yeah. If I may just add one last thought, it's like you want to be the Oprah of your industry.
Yes.
Oprah is who she is because she makes people feel good.
Yes.
Even when they're talking about things that might feel bad. Yeah. She understands people and she helps them get what they want.
Mic drop. That's perfect. That's the perfect way to end. Great. Gwen, thank you so much for being here. Reach Gwen Hutchings at gwenhutchings.com. That's GwenHutchings.com. And I'll have your information in the show notes for the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Amy.
Today's episode is sponsored by Bold Apps. Bold offers a full suite of proven apps for Shopify and Shopify Plus to help you grow your online store, all backed by industry-leading support, including bundles, upsells, subscriptions, and much more. Find them at boldcommerce.com. You've been listening to the Traffic Handler podcast, getting new customers, making new sales, and growing your retail business with e-commerce. I'm your host, Amy Biddle. Get more at amybiddle.me. Until next time, go sell more stuff.